I'm Dennis Anderson, along with Julie Zenner, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Duluth Police Chief Gordon Ramsay is here to talk about a host of timely issues facing police forces today.
It's the biggest week in live music in Duluth as Homegrown plays and sings its way across the city.
And a new health clinic in the region, plus an environmental ruling on a mining project in our weekly business headlines.
It's all coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. This week's program was recorded on Wednesday. Julie, nice warm-up this week.
Oh, it's beautiful. Makes me think that summer is actually going to come at some point.
I think it's going to, huh? All right. Well, we've got some great discussion, so let's get started.
All right. Thank you, Denny, and welcome everyone. Police forces across the nation are facing trials and scrutiny like none in recent history. From race relations to high technology, the issues are serious and widespread. Here to talk about our largest local police force, the changes it might be facing, and police and community relations is Duluth Police Chief Gordon Ramsay. And Chief, thanks for sitting down with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, the big news this week has been the rioting in Baltimore. As a police officer, what goes through your head as you watch what's unfolding out there right now?
Well, if you consider the police community relations really has been in the spotlight since the Ferguson incident. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I don't like watching the national news anymore because it is on almost every night there's a negative police story. So I think it's beginning to impact our police officers, you know, their psyches, their feeling, you know, on how they're being perceived in the community. Mm-hmm. And I think it's taking a toll on our officers. With
riots and lawsuits in some parts of the country, what are you telling your police officers?
Well, I'm focusing them on what we have here. And in Duluth, we have tremendous public support. Matter of fact, we had a survey done last year through the mayor's office with the International County Manager City Association. We had a 93% rating of fair, good, or excellent from community members. So that's something really to be proud of. Nationally, that number is usually around 65 to 70%. So we're doing much better here in that regard, and that we do have tremendous community support in Duluth. So there's still work to be done here. I mean, it's not perfect, but overall, our community is very supportive of our department.
It does seem like most of the communities where the conflict has broken out, there have been just simmering issues for a long time, and it sounds like Duluth might be a little bit ahead of the game in that. But what have you actually been doing to kind of cultivate the relationships between the police department and the communities of color locally?
Well, if you consider, you know, community policing really came about in the 90s. Chief Lyons was a big supporter of community policing. We expanded the force to put more people out in the neighborhoods to address neighborhood issues, build relationships. Now, after 9/11, a lot of the federal funding for those programs, I was a Clinton cop, you know.
Sure.
President Clinton put 100,000 extra police on the streets to focus on community policing. After 9/11, a lot of that money was cut, and it went to more homeland security issues, fed into some of the militarization of police that you've heard about. And a lot of cities did away with community policing. They went back to more of the traditional method of policing. We maintained it. And I think that's one thing that has kept us different. We've continued to be focused on community policing and building trust and relations with our citizens.
When you're thinking of hiring new officers, Gordon, what are you looking for in them? What kind of testing or what kind of interview process do you have?
Well, we involve the community in well, first of all, there's written tests, and then those that score high enough come to a community panel where community members sit in as well as officers from the department, and they're ranked on communication skills, volunteering, education, and from that point then those that score high enough go through a background phase and then ultimately a final interview with me. But really, we want people who can communicate well, people with education. We want the best and the brightest people on our police department. Ideally, those with life experience that can relate to people that are going through struggles, well-rounded individuals.
Is there a conscious effort to make sure that the force has racial diversity and that's representative of the community?
Yeah, we focus very hard on trying to be representative of the community. Minnesota is a little different in the fact that you have to have a degree in law enforcement to get into policing in Minnesota, and that limits us a little bit. We were a model back in the 70s and 80s as far as recruiting police officers and putting that standard of minimum of a 2-year degree to get in. But the problem is if you don't enter that traditional police professional role after high school or early in your life, and you have chosen psychology or business, now you're in your 30s or 40s and you want to come into police work, it's very difficult for someone to enter our field if they didn't enter right off the bat.
In addition to bright police officers, do you also do some psychological testing? How do you know you're getting the cream of the crop?
Well, extensive psychological testing. As a matter of fact, it has expanded over the years from when I initially started. It used to be just a sit down with a psychologist, completion of the MMPI. Now it's much more in-depth. It's a day-long process. And they do aptitude testing, IQ testing. They still do the MMPI, but shortly after this, I'm going to go and meet with the psychologist, and we're going to have a round table and hear feedback on our candidates.
Oh, sure.
And they make recommendations. They bring things to light where people may have struggles based on some of their findings to help us understand what might be going through their mind as they're going through training to ensure success. But also they want to make sure that there's nothing that we're unaware of. Issues that may impact how they perform their duties, negatively impact their duties. So it's a very, very important aspect of our hiring process.
So you're going through the hiring process right now, and how many new officers do you expect to add to the force?
We're going to, it's filling vacancies. It's going to be 7 additional that are going to start in June. We hired 6 earlier this year. Again, it's just maintaining vacancies. We've had a lot of retirements, some changes in the retirement process. So,
we recently saw where an auxiliary police officer accidentally, he says, shot a civilian. Rather than use his taser, he used his pistol. Do auxiliary officers in Duluth carry weapons?
They don't. No, they carry OC spray, or commonly known as pepper spray, but that's the extent of it. They also are dressed much differently than us, but they do not carry any guns or firearms.
Can you talk about that program a little bit? We do have auxiliary police in the city. They
Yes,
drive
we
a
do.
squad car, I believe, don't they?
Correct. Yep, they drive a squad car. They help us out at special events, and they donate thousands of hours every year to help us perform community events such as Grandma's Marathon. We couldn't do it without them. They do traffic control. They help us with certain security at events, and they are an integral part of our operations.
Yeah.
Now, the Duluth Police have been using body cameras for coming up on a year now.
Correct.
Isn't it? How has that been working for you? Because that has been one of the things that people have pointed to as maybe part of the solution to avoid these major conflicts.
Well, we started testing them in 2010, and I am a big believer in the value of video in police work. Initially, the technology wasn't there. The battery life wasn't there. The quality of the camera wasn't there. Well, now, beginning about a year and a half ago, a product came forward with a great battery life that was hardy, easy to track the videos, and we ended up purchasing them for every patrol officer. We have a little over 100 cameras now, and they've been tremendous. Not only in criminal cases for investigation and evidence purposes, but also complaints. We used to try and wrap up our citizen complaints within 30 days. Now they're wrapped up in a few days.
Sure.
Do you think that the presence of the camera alone changes the tone of encounters out on the street?
I think a majority of the time it does, when people are reminded that they're on video. And the officers are saying it. Initially, it was about a 50-50 split on how the officers felt about it. Now it's probably 90+% support. The investigators recently requested them as well.
Now, on the flip side of that coin, most of the public now has cameras on their telephones, and so they're recording a lot of action that police officers are doing. Is there something psychological that can hamper a police officer from doing his or her job knowing he's being recorded?
You know, I think initially it was a shock. I remember a couple years ago I stopped at a high-risk traffic stop. They were taking into custody a subject on an attempted murder warrant. And I remember once he was handcuffed, I looked around me and there was no less than 6 phone cameras on us. And I thought, wow, this is 2013. That was 2013 at the time. And it's just it's a way of life for the police officers where, you know, and we've always told them, expect that you're being recorded. Behave like you're being
There are
recorded.
cameras everywhere today.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Back to the body cameras, some people had raised concerns about, you know, privacy issues. Oftentimes when a police officer goes to a scene, there are embarrassing situations or sensitive situations that people might not want available to the public on video. How is that video protected? Is it open to the public? What's done with it, I guess would be my question.
Sure. This was one of our concerns when we got the cameras, right? Because, you know, last month for March, we recorded 13,000 videos.
Wow.
And we went to the Department of Administration, the City of Duluth, last fall to ask for a new classification for body camera video because the data privacy laws have not kept up with the technology. Right now, once a case is closed, a complaint is done, there's no juvenile or other factors, the video is presumed public, right? And you do capture people at their worst moments in their life. You capture inside their home. Well, we thought that where people have an expectation of privacy, that video should not just be available to anybody. It should be available to the people that are involved in it, but you know, your neighbor or your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend shouldn't be allowed to access that to do with whatever they want. We made that request to the Department of Administration and it was turned down, and they recommended that we go through the legislature. It was fairly close to the beginning of the session when they made that ruling. And unfortunately, the opinions are so varying at the legislature that we have not been able to get any traction with resolving this. So I think it's going to probably be a year or two before we can get everybody on the same page.
Now, Chief, you just completed a term with the Minnesota Police Chiefs Association. How is that group, that association, handling these issues that we've been talking about here?
Well, we've been very active at the legislature trying to educate our elected officials on some of the thoughts. You know, when you think about body cameras, not everybody thinks about the privacy issues. The fact that, yeah, my home could potentially be put on TV, on YouTube. If I'm having a bad day, suddenly that's available for anybody who wants to see it. So we've been active at the legislature trying to educate and make sure that the legislators understand the variables involved with this new technology.
Now, the Duluth City Council talked about some new zoning rules this week for dispensaries for medical marijuana. Do you anticipate any law enforcement issues as medical marijuana becomes more available in the community and in the state?
Well, the Chiefs Association was very involved in that legislation, and we supported the bill in the form it ended up being passed in. You know, we don't anticipate in the current form any problems.
Things can always expand, though.
That's our
So-
worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Will the
our worry.
horse patrol be on the streets soon?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
They've been training with St. Paul and Minneapolis, and it's fun to watch.
How many officers on horseback?
We'll have 3 this summer. 3 this summer. We got 4 horses. We'll probably, because we're short-staffed, we had to pull 1 off. Probably 4 in the fall again, but right now it'll be 3.
I suspect this is the time of year when crime starts picking up for you as more people are moving around. Anything that you're seeing?
You know what? Our major crimes are down, but we're paying more attention to patterns than we ever have. We've seen a little pattern out east with some burglaries, garage burglaries, car prowls, and we're trying to warn people, you know, teach them how not to be a victim.
Sure. Are we going to have a bomb squad locally?
I don't know. We're not getting a lot of traction on this issue.
Yeah,
It's an
it's an
expensive
issue.
proposition, though.
Yeah.
Very expensive to do, and it's just a shame we have these great resources, great people at the 148th, and we can't
use
resolve this. Yeah.
Any advice to people who see crimes occurring or to protect themselves just generally?
Well, oftentimes we hear from people they saw something suspicious, erred on the side of not calling. We want you to err on the side of calling. We'd much rather respond and find out it's nothing versus an opportunity to catch a crook.
There you go.
All right. Chief Ramsay, thank you again so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Always good.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
There will be twice as many workers building homes for Billman's construction company if Northwest Airlines sites its new Airbus maintenance facility here.
With 1,200 employees, I would imagine we'd be talking probably, and the spin-off, we'd be talking probably 500, 600 new houses.
3 years ago, Lake Superior Paper Industries made a similar impact on Duluth's real estate market, but to a lesser degree. Home values in some areas of Duluth skyrocketed 20% in the year following LSPI's completion. And the Northwest project, proposed for this airport site, is expected to be the biggest business news for Duluth since the early 1900s.
We would only be predicting now or making some projections, but certainly if some people want to live close to where they're going to be employed, you would think, well, you can see right now, for instance, Piedmont Heights and Duluth Heights, there are some developments in process right now.
And a prediction most Duluth real estate and construction companies are banking on is, if the Airbus base comes to Duluth, it will not only be a buyer's and seller's market, but a builder's. Colleen Burns, KDLH News.
Well, the annual Homegrown Music Festival is well underway. Some 200 musical acts are playing in venues across the Twin Ports now for 8 straight days. Why is Homegrown such a big deal? Well, we have some fan reaction to the event, plus a look at one of the headlining groups, Actual Wolf. They returned to Homegrown Saturday night at Pizza Luce. Here's a look at previous performances.
I'm Hattie Peterson. We are Hattie and her man band. There you go again, dishing out the blame, stirring up trouble, not a drop of shame. How can you stand to watch an innocent man?
It's my first, yep, for 15 years.
It's awesome. I've been coming since the first one when I first moved to Duluth.
I have no idea what it is.
There is a fire in your eye, burning up the evidence, claiming it to lie, long as your grin is wide. You believe they'll stand by your side.
I like Homegrown because I like the music. It's totally Minnesotan. Like, it's the only place you get music like this.
You know, I like seeing all the energy, and there's lots of diversity in the music and everything too.
Everyone gets to get a taste of everything that's going on.
See a lot of friends out. Great music.
Good music, atmosphere, meet all your friends. People you don't see, come out, have a good time.
I love Homegrown because it has Duluth's best musicians, and there's so much talent in Duluth, and a lot of it goes unrecognized.
The music is amazing.
Get in, out of the cold wind that is blowing outside. Hey. Get on this funky wave and enjoy the ride. Get up, out of your seat and move yourself around. Said get ready to get in, get on, get up and get down.
Oh, I think it's beyond Duluth's music scene. It's about the culture of Duluth.
In the last few years, the art scene has been introduced, and it's amazing.
I mean, it's a huge accomplishment to be able to pull this many people together and organize it, and to see so many people of so many walks of life and ages come out and have fun and support it. It's one of a kind.
It brings all of Duluth together, and it brings back all of the music that's created in Duluth. It's very special.
It's the best time of year, for sure.
I totally recommend it to anybody. It's awesome.
It makes me proud to be from Duluth.
I'm a happy native. Yeah.
Thank you. away with another dude. For an hour or two, I was thinking of you. Tuck myself in with you on the brain. My body felt heavy and it was aching again. So I called my quit for a minute or three. I'm dreaming about you, baby. Are you dreaming of me? Are you dreaming of me? Are you dreaming of me? For a minute or three. Are you dreaming of me? My body felt heavy for a minute or three. I'm dreaming about you, baby. Are you dreaming of me? I'm dreaming about you, baby. Are you dreaming of me? Yeah.
Let's turn now to the week's top business news from Business North. Orthopedic Associates of Duluth is expanding its services in Hibbing with the addition of a new clinic, which will open on May 1st in the Mesabi Mall. The facility will offer Hibbing area patients a local office to choose when seeking care for sports or other injuries, joint pain, and foot and ankle issues. The practice has added surgeons and therapists to expand its specialties. Those include total joint replacement, direct hip replacement, sports medicine, arthroscopy, minimally invasive surgery, foot surgery, hand surgery, general orthopedics, and fracture care.
At the University of Wisconsin-Superior, more than one-third of faculty and staff members who are eligible for early retirement have said they may accept voluntary buyouts. Like other University of Wisconsin campuses, UWS is seeking ways to cut costs to cope with substantial budget cuts. Chancellor Renee Wachter is bracing for a roughly $2.5 million cut if the governor's proposal clears the legislature. She has received 28 applications out of 78 eligible employees. UWS officials have already cut around $1.8 million after facing a $4.5 million shortfall last year.
The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources has determined that an environmental assessment worksheet process will be sufficient to evaluate a proposed expansion at the Peter Mitchell mine near Babbitt. That decision rules out the need for the owner of Peter Mitchell, North Shore Mining Company, to prepare a more extensive environmental impact statement. The project involves mining an additional 108 acres and constructing an engineered stockpile to manage sulfur-bearing waste rock. Overall, the mine is expected to operate for another 70 years, at which time a permanent closure and final reclamation will occur. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Well, our time is nearly up, so call now if you have a comment. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. You can also visit the WDSE website for news and information about the station, updates on our broadcast schedule, and more. Well, it looks like I hope the weekend is going to be as nice as this past week has been, and I suspect some folks might be opening cabins in the next few days.
I think so, and those who aren't might be enjoying some homegrown music.
There you go. You got a choice to do whatever
Lots
you'd like
of good
to do
things
this weekend.
this weekend.
For Julie and all of us at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. We do hope you have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.